Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, welcome to another spooky comic episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's living a brief life with me tonight?
Hey, it's everybody's favorite Kenneth, Sanity, forever mindful of his own mortality.
And Chris Dobson, I don't tell you what you do it, you know?
And we are here we bring you two comic SandMan episodes this Spooktober. Two. But we are here to cover SandMan Brief Lives, the volume 7 of the SandMan run. And part of the main story. Well, I mean, in my opinion, everything's been part of the main story, but this is actually involves Morpheus for a change.
Yeah, this is actual main story.
Yeah.
The last one we did, what was that? Fables and Reflections.
Yes.
Was it was scattered. It was a short story collection from, later issues, previous issues, all thrown together into one book. This is a continuous story from beginning to end, issues 41 through 49.
And I was a little shocked when I saw that issue 50 was something we already read.
Yeah.
Because it was from the Fables and Recollection one. I'm like, oh, okay.
I feel like when Neil Gaiman had his story Bible or whatever, 50 was supposed to be the last issue of this run, but it ended up being 49 because it's a major moment, the last issue.
Yeah.
So would have made more sense if that was 50, but it's fine.
Hey, I get it. Sometimes when you're planning, sometimes you cover a game called 13, you do it for episode 112, and then you do something, or you do it for episode 114, do something else for 113. It happens. You just don't plan right. So, not speaking from personal experience, no, not at all.
No.
So I've never read this book before. I am completely in the Sandman train, no thanks to you guys. You two have really got me turned on to these books.
It's one of literature's great works of art, honestly.
It really is. I was really off-put by these books at first, and I wasn't interested, and I can't believe how much I am into these now.
Yeah, so, it really, the books started being so much, and I know I talked about it back when we did, years ago. It started up being so much Swamp Thing influenced, and now it's barely, touching any of that stuff anymore. Now it is the story he wants to tell.
Oh, yeah, there's no DC stuff anywhere in here anymore.
Yeah, and even the the spooky horror stuff that was in the first 2 volumes, that was again very much, Dr. Destiny and all of the Swamp Thing adjacent stuff, all of that is gone. It's barely, there's a little bit of spooks, there's some scary things, but it's this is just a fun road trip story.
Yeah, I mean there's some shit that kind of got me a bit. So
yeah, it is always fun because Dream can always turn it on whenever. When one of his Dream, citizens is like, yeah, well, I'd fix Dream right up. He's like, oh, really? What would you do?
An all-powerful being.
Yeah, immediately intimidates him into shutting up.
So I was very confused. This is a book, I had to read it twice because I knew I missed stuff from the first time I read it. So I read the physical copy and I read it digital just because I found out that I prefer digital when I'm laying down in bed, even though having the actual book in your hands is so much nicer. But I did both for this whole series, and it's because I knew stuff didn't click. In the way the first issue starts off, you have some old guy climbing up a hill. It should have clicked where he was at. It did not click until I saw the head. I had no idea. Okay, when I saw Johanna's grave on the second page, it started to kind of click, but I was still a little confused. So it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I get it. The whole idea that this family that's protecting, what the hell's his name? Morpheus' son. Morpheus.
Yep.
I should be able to remember that. But this is the people that keep him guarded, and they keep mentioning how they lost him 30 years, or for the 30 years at the one point, which is in the other book.
Right.
And I thought it was cool to see Johanna Constantine's grave, though. I do like that. I thought that was a cool touch.
Yeah, that she's, I guess, a hero of this temple because she saved the head, which is still alive.
Did she ever have her own run or books about that character?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it was just John.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she may have appeared in a few other issues, but I don't think she's ever had an ongoing or anything like a Jonah Hex style set in the past book, which would be cool.
It would be. I also like how you can tell what year this is. Then it goes to present day with you have a homeless person hiding under a corner begging for money, and you could kind of tell what year it's supposed to be just based on the way they talk. I like that. The way they draw everything. I'm assuming it's supposed to be modern day, so this would be the 80s, right? Or this is the 90s?
We're into the 90s. There's It's not included in the brief lives, but I think it was in one of these issues. Has the actual issue had a death teaches you how AIDS works? So it's fully 90s.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I was unsure about how I felt about Delirium when this first opened up, and I see, okay, it's Delirium. I'm like, she's not a character that before this I had any concern of or cared about in any shape or form.
Which, honestly, I think is good, because this story really is Delirium's story.
Yes.
And, like, this is, like, you see her before this, but you don't really get to know her. And this, you really get to know all about Delirium. So much so that by the end of it, Delirium emerges as one of my favorite endless.
I can completely see why.
Like, she's just great. She's just trying to hold it together.
And she has so much growth throughout this book too. When they really get into her character so much in this.
Oh man, growth is a big theme throughout this entire book. Ooh.
Yeah. And you also kind of get to see some of their powers too, how they have Jedi mind tricks powers, essentially. Like you see it very early, a much less vicious version when Delirium ends up wandering up to like a club and. The guy's like, you can't go in here. And she's like, yes, I can. And he's like, oh, here you go. I was not expecting a BDSM club to be in here. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, it's funny. This is on, because I read this on a library copy, which I recommended in previous issues, but I also read some of them on DC Universe's app. And it's all there. Like, you can just check it out. So make sure if you just hand your kids the iPad and be like, read some DC comics, make sure you're at least checking sometimes. They're not reading the Sandman, because there's a lot of adult themes here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but the BDSM club is pretty tame as far as clubs go.
Yeah, there's enough content warnings in these 8 issues or 9 issues or whatever. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Basically, every time despair is on, appears, you're like, okay, I don't think 7-year-olds should look at this. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a prude.
One thing that really got my attention is when she ends up mistaking a woman that's there for her sister Death. Yes. I did too, as the reader.
Well, you're supposed to, because she's wearing the Ankh too. Like she's made up like Death.
It was so painful.
And so she's like, oh, good, you're here. And she's like, let's go back to your realm or whatever. And they're like, okay, well, let's buy a drink first and we'll see where it goes.
Which is pretty great. And then afterwards, Delirium is now set. She wants her sister and starts freaking out.
To be fair.
And then her sister showed up. The wrong
different sister.
Desire is always the wrong sibling. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is also when you see what Desire essentially sends that woman off to. I mean, I'm assuming commit murder if it's going to happen eventually.
Well, or a dramatic suicide or something. Terrible decision making based on falling madly in love with someone and then making bad decisions afterwards.
Yeah, like I don't think it's a murder. I don't think it's suicide. I think it's just going to be a very, very hot, very torrid affair that's going to end really badly, and both of the people involved are just this is going to be their big hurt. I don't think it's going to be murder or any bodily harm. I think this is going to emotionally destroy both of the people in this relationship, though.
Yeah, which it's interesting because we see Desire do this first, and then later we see Dream and Delirium also do this basically same thing of like, get out of my life, and then here's how I'm going to curse you for like inconveniencing me.
Yeah, because they're so damn powerful. They are just such powerful beings.
And they're so flawed.
Oh, God, yes. And
yeah, because they're not used to, at least some of them aren't used to talking to people.
No, they're not. Oh, goodness. But after the BDSM club, we go back to Desire's monument to themselves, where they live.
I love how they change Desire all the time. Like, in some images, she's drawn... they're drawn as a she. Some images, it's more masculine. I love that.
Yeah, it's so really good. And it changes sometimes even on the same page.
Yeah, I've seen it. Like I've been paying a lot of attention to that too, and I love how they do that with Desire.
Yeah, and that's absolutely what Desire is. It's forever changing. It's knows neither man or woman. It just is there. And Desire the Endless is a really great personification of the concept of desire.
Yeah. This is also, I think, the first time that we see Despair's realm. I don't think we've seen Despair before. The realm.
No. Nope. I don't believe we have. I'm pretty sure we haven't.
Okay, I'm gonna reread this entire series when we finish. Not yet.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that got me, like, so then she travels to Despair's, Delirium does, like, she just goes through, I guess she goes through the mirrors, or no, does she use the hook to summon her, then goes there?
Yeah, she uses the sigil to gain access to the realm.
It's funny with Despair, because, like, oh, yeah, this guy, his wife found out that, had found a collection of porno, and then they gotta just keep adding to it to make sure this guy's a piece of shit. I'm like, oh, yeah, you didn't stop.
Nope.
You would keep adding lines and like, oh, yeah, we wanted to see this guy suffer. So.
Yeah, and he does. Like, that's Despair's whole thing. And she loves it.
Just sort of catching people at the moment where they're just like done. That's kind of Despair's thing.
But you also have a small comment which meant nothing to me the first time I read this, where Delirium's like, you guys have rats, and this other person has this pet, and this person has this. I don't have anything. And I'm like, I see where you're going. After I read it the second time.
Yeah.
But it's also, you kind of see Despair gets hurt because Delirium asks Despair to come help her find their brother that's been missing. And she gets very upset and, like, I think stabs herself in pulls out her eye.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, starts self-harming.
Yeah. Oh,
and that is absolutely a Despair thing to do. She did that back in Doll's House also.
Man, I need to reread Doll's House too. Oh. Once I finish the whole thing, I'm reading the whole thing. Paper, just, yeah. And then it takes you back to Despair talking about the last time she saw Destruction, their brother that's missing, was, I think, 300 years ago, and it's during the plague.
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten a key part of history that I forgot they killed all the cats and the dog because they thought they were spreading it. I think that's factual.
I'm pretty sure it is.
What led to it getting worse because they killed the things that were hunting the actual stuff that was, progressing the plague.
And I think this is only the second time we've seen Destruction so far?
Yes, the only other time we saw him was the wedding.
Yeah, we saw him in the flashback to Orpheus.
And, now we're getting him talking to Despair, which is fitting because I don't think we really mentioned what the narrative thrust of this book is yet.
We don't really know.
It's basically the search for destruction.
Yeah, but you don't really know that. I mean, you have Delirium ask Desire to go. She asked Despair to go. But Delirium is such a character that's in Delirium. So you don't really take what she's saying as a real thing is happening. You're like, okay, you're just, as a reader, you're just going along, but you really don't understand what's happening at all. At least this reader didn't the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I was just baffled. I'm like, I don't understand. So it kind of got me. And like, you see how Despair talks about with Destruction. I think this is when Destruction says he wants to leave. Or maybe that's later.
Yeah, when he's talking to Dream. Is this in this scene? I think it is.
No, it's later when he talks to Dream.
Okay.
Way later. This is just him talking to her and, how Destruction might not be needed or something like that. And then he kissed her on the cheek and then he leaves. And I think that's the last time she ever saw him. No, she saw him again 30 years on, she mentioned.
Yeah, that was when Destruction left.
Okay. And then the last page is Despair all upset and Desire is trying to talk to her and she's just ignoring her.
And it's, I think, the first time Despair doesn't respond to Desire.
Oh, I didn't catch this the first time, but in one of the panels in the mirror, you see Despair's face.
Yes. Being
kissed by the brother, so she's in despair.
Yeah, like reliving their own despairing moment.
That's good. Fuck, that's good. And then that brings us to issue 2. And I think that's one thing that's so interesting about Sandman is we read a whole first issue of this big story arc and we don't even see Morpheus till the second issue, which is supposedly, in quotation, the main character of Sandman, which I don't agree on exactly. But
well, I mean, at the end of the day, it really is
but
his story, but it's also the story of all the Endless.
Yeah. I mean, you feel like you don't even... I feel like you don't need Morpheus, though. I think this book is proven. I mean, I enjoy him and I like it when he's around, but the book still works when he's not around.
The characters work when he's not around because they're interesting enough on their own.
Yeah.
But
it's not like a Spider-Man comic where if all of a sudden they just killed off a random character like Miss Marvel in a Spider-Man comic, you'd be like, oh, what the? You wouldn't. You if it happened to Sandman, you would accept it. If it happened to Spider-Man, you get confused and write angry letters on the internet. So
that's a problem.
Well, they would never do that.
Oh,
That's just crazy talk.
yeah. Why would you do something? But it's just like, if you read a Spider-Man book, Spider-Man wasn't in the first issue of an arc, you'd be like, what the hell? Where's Spider-Man? Where in this, I'm not asking where Morpheus is. I'm just happy to be reading.
Right. It's a true, what's the word?
Companion?
Please edit out this long pause.
Oh, the pause will be edited out as long as I'm not talking. Yes.
I cannot remember the word.
It'll come to you.
Oh my God. I am really upset by this.
Are you having colored bubbles above your head right now with different letters and the fonts are changing sizes while you're thinking?
Apparently.
Also, every freaking endless has different font when they talk. And I like it and I don't like it at the same time because it can be hard to read.
Different fonts, different word bubbles, different colors filling the bubbles. But it really does make it easy to figure out who's talking.
Yeah, it does do that. As long as they're not writing the cursive like they were in the last thing, I'm all good because I fucking hate cursive. Like, if you ever go to ship something at a store and you write in cursive and you hand that letter to the guy at the counter and say, here, send it to this location, he probably might not be able to read it. Don't do that. No reason I'm thinking that. But issue 2, it opens up with Morpheus. I think this is when he talks about how he's heartbroken and then it's raining in the dream realm. But they never say who she was in this.
Nope, they do not say who she was in this.
And I liked it because at the same time, you're like, it's irrelevant. You don't need to know who this woman is that he fell in love with that left him. It doesn't matter to the story that we're telling you right now.
Right now, yes. You do find out eventually.
Okay. And
it is very important.
Okay. There's a page way later that I don't think is a flashback to something that we never saw. I'm going to ask you guys when we get there because I'm pretty sure that has more meaning than I could tell. But that's not near. One thing that had this, you also get reintroduced to that Fae that we haven't seen, that we see off and on. That was from the really good Shakespeare-ish random issue.
Oh, Nuala.
Midsummer.
Nuala was from the book where Morpheus was getting people to figure out who's going to take over.
Oh, it was from Season of Mist.
Yeah.
Never mind. I'm confusing my books.
I think Nuala's her sister, though.
Okay. And then I think you guys had mentioned this before, but wasn't it the first arc or the second arc? We saw that Jack-o'-lantern guy, and now he's back again.
Merv's just around.
But I like how he actually plays a part in this. Like he's actually doing things. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, he's just there, and it's just hilarious. He's like, I'm just a guy working. Nobody respects me. It made me laugh. I like him. I like him a lot. And this idea of that the rain just doesn't stop because Dream's upset, so they all just get rained on. That's a really cool thing too.
Tell me you're super goth and extremely emotional in 6 panels. And you'll have page 2 of this issue.
And we get one of the Cain enables. And is it just me? Or there's a skeleton in one of those panels too. And you see, I'm assuming that's the other brother. I'm assuming that's what they were going for. I don't know, it's just there for like a brief part.
It's possible, but they're dealing with flood. Floods aren't great.
And then you have the 3 Guardians, which I just can't get. I can't get over how important those 3 characters are and how much they show up throughout Sandman in different arcs, just randomly. They're always there: the Griffin, the horse, or Pegasus, and the dragon. And in this, they're holding Delirium. And this is when you first see Delirium that had wandered into Dream's realm. And there's a little small scene where she kisses the dragon, and his eyes change. They go from normal eyes to all like squiggly lines.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. So I have a question for you guys. When they both sit down, they order food. Were those chocolate people like sentient?
It definitely seems like they were.
Yeah.
I don't think they were initially, but I think Delirium's touch kind of brought them back to life.
Okay, because she asked she wants chocolate people or chocolate, things with raspberry filling, and she's eating them, and then they like some of the lines there. I'm like, wait, are they alive? So it was very weird. Like the line, touched by her fingers, the 2 surviving chocolate people copulate desperately, losing themselves in a melting frenzy of lust, spending the last of their brief borrowed lives in a spasm of raspberry cream and fear.
Just like humanity.
I was like, wait a second. That kind of got me. It was also one thing, small thing, but like had this been a regular DC book, I feel like they would have put is the people who are serving them being some DC characters of some sort, like minor character, but just something. Where here it's just too random, and the waiter looks like he belongs in the 1930s cartoon. I think this is when Delirium, Morpheus. Then do they go to Desire's realm, or no? They're just talking about. She's talking about how she wants to go find destruction and wants his help.
Yeah, they're in the gallery.
Yeah,
okay.
Dream goes to Desire specifically to be like, did you basically like launch my sister and me, like, is this your fault? And Desire is like, no, I didn't. Like, this is not my deal.
And doesn't he blame Desire too for his love going away? Like he thinks that's something to do with Desire, if I remember correctly around this point.
He doesn't blame her, but Desire defends themselves really staunchly right away by saying neither Delirium's new obsession nor your little heartbreak are of my doing. So they're waiting for it. They're waiting for the blame and trying to head it off early.
Well, they know what their brother is like, so.
Dramatic bitch.
Yes, completely. And like one thing about Delirium is her hair keeps changing. Not as much yet, but I noticed that like you can kind of tell. Like you also see an image that meant nothing to me the first time I read this. When you see a younger Delirium, but she's not Delirium yet. She's still Delight. So I thought that was cool because it didn't click when I saw it. Even though like they make it obvious, it didn't click.
Yeah, and the whole Delight to Delirium thing is so sad.
Did they lose a sibling? Did someone die like early on, one of the Endless or something? There's some comments like they had to change jobs at one point.
Yeah, they say like how Despair becoming Despair from being a twin of Desire was like really hard on her. So they imply that she's not the first Despair.
Okay. Yeah, it was just it had me confused. That's what I was wondering. Okay. Brings us to issue 3. I think issue 3 opens up really well with just a bunch of text talking about how there's people that have been around for thousands and thousands of years. I like this idea.
Yeah, the truly old.
But they're still mortal.
Yeah. Well, remember Hobgadling? Hobgadling? I can't say that name.
That's fine.
Like, he didn't die, and all because he said he didn't want to. So there's probably other people. It's probably not the first time it's happened.
It's just such a cool idea to me because I like to believe that there could be people out there that have been around for, thousands of years that just changed identities. I did like Highlander a lot, by the way, too, in the 90s. So there's that.
Oh, you like Sean Connery playing a Spaniard, did you?
I like the show better with Adrian Paul, sir. I actually met Adrian Paul while wearing a McLeod shirt. So
nerd. That's pretty cool, though.
It was McLeod's antique store. It was like some fan-made shirt, and I was wearing it when I met him and got a picture with him. Real nice guy, by the way.
I believe that.
But that's what I kept thinking of when they talked about this, and I was just so confused. Like, there were parts in here that didn't make sense to me to my second reading because I didn't have the pieces of the puzzle. Like, you all of a sudden have this random lawyer just gets killed by a brick wall. This also confused me.
But you're not supposed. I mean, on the first reading, you're not supposed to know what that means.
Yeah.
It's just an old guy who's like 1,000 years old or whatever dies, and he doesn't know because they seemingly some of the people that are thousands of years old are through their own power alive for that long. This guy is just like, I'm just really long lived. I don't know.
It just keeps not dying.
Yeah. I do love it when the brick falls on him. He's like, I don't believe it. I did it again. I did it freaking again. I'm not even hurt. And then Death shows up and I'm like, yeah, you're dead. It was good. I
do like as an attorney that they make him like the biggest loser attorney. Like he's got like pattern bald with a ponytail. Like they really are like this guy. Yeesh.
And that little wispy mustache and thick frame glasses.
Yeah.
And I know Death must have said this before. She's like, you got what everyone else gets. You get a lifetime.
Yep. That was a big line in The Sound of Her Wings.
Yeah.
Way back in issue 1, I think.
Yeah.
No, 2.
Which, I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, Death isn't, it's not saying, oh, you lived longer, so you did better. Like, he kind of objectively, he didn't really do anything that much better than other people do. He just lived longer.
Yeah. He got from beginning to end, same as everybody else. Some people are short, some people are long, but in the end, you always meet the cute little goth girl with the yawn.
Yeah, I love how there's one panel where the strap of her shirt is falling off and she's fixing it in the next panel. It doesn't need to be there, but that little touch I just thought was just damn cool. I don't know why. It's just really, I'm like, fucking Death is so cool.
Yeah, I think the entire arc is done by Jill Thompson. I think she's the artist for at least 90-some% of it, which I bring up because she's about to appear as a character more or less. Like, if you look at what Jill Thompson looked like in 1990, whatever, it's basically the character that's about to show up.
Well, that's cool that she drew herself.
Yeah, just a curly, redheaded, like gawky woman that shows up in the next scene and almost gets exploded, but doesn't.
Yeah, they were about to kill her, weren't they? Because she wouldn't do what they wanted.
she just gets like a sixth sense or whatever, and it's just like, nope, just gets out of there.
Yeah, because Dream and, I mean, they'll do what they need to do. They don't give a shit.
Right. Well,
That's
we
funny,
find out why the lawyer died and why she almost dies much later. But yeah, we go back to Dream, I guess, before that happens.
Yeah, because the next scene is them going to Pheromones, and then that's when they're trying to arrange travel. Is the secretary the one that looks like Jill? Or
No.
Oh, okay.
It's the scene coming up here.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't have much to say. Just they go to Pheromone, and then you have Delirium making frogs, which made me laugh. And then another guy who's like an endless. He's like, "Yeah, we had a drink in Babylon." I like that line a lot.
See, he's not really an endless. He's just a god.
Yeah,
he was a god.
Yeah, a minor god of transportation. Back when people prayed to gods about transportation, and this is really important.
Yeah, I looked it up and I couldn't tell who this was supposed to be. I am not going to do like a huge deep dive, but it seems like the sun god in a lot of Babylonian religions was their god of travelers. And I'm like, well, it can't be him. Sun gods are pretty important.
Okay, so you're the lady in her apartment. You're saying that's the one that Jill Thompson?
Yes, oh, yeah. That one looks very much like Jill Thompson. I mean, Jill Thompson, I don't know if she dyes her hair. She's, however old she is now. But when she was younger, she had curly red hair.
Oh, that's cool. So I was like, when I read this, like, it's a very small scene where this woman is in her apartment having coffee, and then all of a sudden just leaps out the fucking window and survives, and the building blows up. And I was just very, very confused what was happening. I'm like, because I don't think they reference this character ever again this entire book.
Nope.
Only at the end when I think Dream is like, oh yeah, this girl and this bear guy are probably, their guard is. They realize they survived this thing that happened because they just show up to be like near death encounters, and then no one ever talks to them.
Yeah, and then I also laugh that she goes to a Kmart. I'm like, well, this was written in the 90s. I mean, Kmart was still around not that long ago, but they're gone. So little things like that kind of crack me up. This is another part that completely confused me. So all of a sudden we're introduced to some random guy drawing on an island or drawing somewhere by the sea with a talking dog. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy?
It's Molag Bal from the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, I couldn't find confirmation, but I was like, this is an Elder Scrolls reference, right? The talking dog, because it's Barbas in the Elder Scrolls games, and it's Barnabas here. I feel like that almost has to be a reference.
Well, on Elder Scrolls part, I mean, this was long before even Arena.
Yeah, I mean, I think Oblivion was the first time you talked to the dog, because it's a dog statue in Oblivion.
Yeah. And
then for sure, I mean, in Skyrim, there's a whole talking dog, and it's a whole thing. So, but I think it's a reference, because again, the dog is named Barbas and everything I looked up, and I couldn't find confirmation, but I was like, that's pretty close.
Yeah, and come on. The guy with the talking dog, and Molag Bal is the god of war.
Right. So, well, it's Clavicus Vile, and at least one of them.
Oh yeah,
who's like the god of heals.
And I should have caught it sooner when this guy opens this random room in the back, and you see like a pool of water that's all upset. I did not catch what was on the wall. The Ankh, Dream's Mask, Desire's Heart. Like
he's got a summoning room like all the others. So yeah, this is your big clue that this is distraction.
Did not. Somehow I read the panel and I just kept going.
Without the beard. I don't know if I like him as much without the beard.
No, the beard
and helps. And the whole thing is that, like, he's named Destruction. You think he's going to be, like, bad, but he's really not. Like, there's nothing. The worst you can say about him is he's a pretty bad artist.
Yeah, and he's not a great poet.
Yeah, the poem he does at the end, pretty terrible.
So I was a little confused. The next, when you have Morpheus and Delirium on the plane, was that woman supposed to be somebody that... Because Dream talks to a child about dreaming, and the woman says she recognizes him. And I was wondering if that was supposed to mean anything to me.
Well, she recognizes it from dreams.
Yeah, like, okay. I mean, I was wondering if it's not a character we already met, is it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I guess he just goes around in people's dreams.
Yeah, like, I would.
I do like how he talks to the girl, though, and tells her, he's like, well, you wake when you always forget. And the mom's like, what's his name? He doesn't have a name. I don't know, that little touch. Because I like the idea of a kid seeing the supernatural, because there's always that thing where kids will notice things that adults don't, and I get that as an adult 35-year-old. I'm like, yeah, I completely get how we grow up and we just accept how certain things are, and if something weird happens, we always find a way to to make it make sense, whether it's real or not. That idea.
Right.
I also believe in supernatural.
And I do like she brings up like, how come in dreams I know how to fly, but when I'm awake I don't remember? And you're like, yeah, it just is that way. Sorry. Like,
which is
just cool to see Dream. Just kind of being more like, you really get to see how much Dream had changed throughout the course of what we read so far out of all the volumes. Like, he's a different character than he was when he first gets captured compared to what he is now.
Yeah.
More growth.
And you can tell, like, when he's talking to the child, he's got such a relaxed posture.
Yeah.
Just having a good time.
And I do like how everything pays off when they meet the woman Ruby that's going to drive them over the country. And then Liam's like, can I drive? And he's like, no. I do like that. I also like that they don't know how to drive, which again makes sense.
I do like that even though she doesn't know how to drive, like, she doesn't get in an accident, really. She just drives crazy.
Yeah.
Like, she's able to, like, whether it's reality control or whatever, like, just driving crazy. It's like, okay, it's fine.
Like, she's got the gist of it.
Yeah, I do like, so they go to one, Neil needs to check up because they're like, let's go to a motel when they're with the driver. And they're like, I'll order room service. And I was like, sorry, is this a motel or is this like a fancy hotel? Like, what are we talking about, Neil? Kind of a confusing moment of British people not quite knowing, like, you know, if you're at a hotel, yeah, you'll get a wake-up call and room service. If you're at a motel, probably not.
No, you won't. Motel, they don't even want to know your name. They're like, nope, you just pay us the money and get the fuck out of here. We don't want to know nothing. You murder someone in the back, that's fine. Just don't. We don't want to know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just thought that was funny. I was like, room service? What are you talking about?
So, issue 4 opened up, and I had no fucking idea what was happening again, where you just have this random old guy talking and then pissing on clothes and eating his shadow and turning into a bear. And I'm like, what the fuck am I reading? Makes sense now. It made no sense to me.
Yeah, and again, it's the sort of warning signal of, like, I'm not going to get roped into this. It's another old one.
I did like when they go to the lawyer's house and he's dead and they're talking to the son. He's like, I found all this shit in the guy's room. And he's like, what the hell? We got drugs and we got guns and
gold.
Oh, I liked it. All I could think of was Highlander. That's all I could think of. Because again, they did that in the show. I mean, they would have stuff hidden and everything because they lived forever. So
I do think, and again, my minor gripes with Neil Gaiman's writing, the fact that he's got some Picassos in here or whatever. Like, why? The fact that you're alive a long time doesn't mean you're, like, suddenly an art appreciator, you know? Like, you'd be much more likely to just have some guy's paintings from, like, 1850 than, like, the most valuable, you know, Spanish painter that, you know, and who becomes this huge name in the 20th century. Like, it would... Just being alive a long time doesn't suddenly make you an art appreciator. It would be much more likely if you just had some random painter who we'd never heard of. Like, yeah, I got this weird portrait of Ben Franklin. I don't know what to do with this.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like, when he got him, they probably were just some dude.
Yeah, but like I said, it's the over-reliance of the immortal guy knowing famous people. Like, there's right before the lawyer dies, he's like, oh, yeah, I saw a movie about the Marquis de Sade on TV, and I remember the real Marquis de Sade was nothing like that. And it's just like, again, just living a long time doesn't necessarily mean you're going to meet everyone in history.
Yeah, like, what if you live a good chunk of your life in South America?
Yeah, like, there's almost no one whose name you know who, you know, other than what, like Vasco da Gama or whatever, who lived in South America for 10,000 years.
Yeah. So like,
yeah. That's my nitpick about Neil Gaiman is he goes to that well a little too often of like, oh yeah, this guy's old. He knows a famous thing from a long time ago.
Well, that's fair. There's a lot of things you just would have missed because you wouldn't have known.
Right.
Or it wouldn't have been important.
It's, you know, I get it. You're writing for a comic book audience, you know, and also Wikipedia doesn't exist. So you can't just like Google like what paintings went missing after World War II and like instantly have a list and be like, this one. You know, like it's not as easy as it is then in 1992 as it is now.
Yeah, because now you have the ability to look up everything. Yeah, that's just cool. I always like, I mean, like, it's something to kind of think about though, because this was written in 1992, 93. So
yeah,
we take for granted.
It's before that. I do like the scene. So they go to the motel, which we already talked about, the inaccurate room service. That when Ruby, the driver, is like, wait, you guys need your keys. And Morpheus is like, whatever.
We could just probably phase through a door.
And then Delirium is like, I'll take the key, but I'll also like turn it into a key. Like she won't take it as a card. She's like, no, I will make it a key because you said it was a key.
I will make it into a key that I know how it works.
Yeah.
Oh, Delirium's cool. You really?
I'm gonna blow bubbles that look cool.
Yeah.
It reminded me of SpongeBob.
I don't know Neil Gaiman's whole family history, but like she's such a little sister.
Yeah.
The fact that she's always sort of needling Dream and then is just like, take me seriously. I'm an adult. Like, don't treat me like a kid. And then like everything she's doing, you're just like, okay, like stop trying to get a reaction out of it.
And then you have like 2 pages of just talking about Ruby and who she is and how she likes money, and then she dies shortly after all this. I was very confused. Like, why do we even we do all this just so we feel bad when we get to the end of the book and she's burning to death? Oh.
I mean, that's the easy answer, but I don't know. I feel like it's not just so that we feel bad that she died or that, Dream is suffering. I think it's to kind of put, more emphasis on the sacrifices that are being made, not just by the Endless, but by humanity when the Endless decide to meddle in the waking world.
That makes sense. Okay, I'll take it.
Good, because I didn't have anything else.
And you have a small scene of Delirium entering someone else's brain, essentially, and talking to Ishtar, which you have no idea who is yet, through another woman named Tiffany or something.
Yes. I mean, Ishtar, again, I didn't know who the Babylonian travel guide guy was. When Ishtar showed up, I was like, okay, I know exactly who this is.
Wait, was Ishtar in the... what book was that? The one with Barbie?
No. Ishtar is just a mythological, she's she's kind of a combination of Aphrodite and Athena from the Middle East, from predating Greek mythology. So an ancient, Sumerian, Babylonian style goddess of love, but also war.
I am not well read enough. I'm finding out. None of these all went over my head.
But they didn't change the name on that one, so I was like, I know who this is. And again, if you just Wikipedia, Ishtar, that's what. If you disambiguate, you're not talking about the 1989 movie, which does get brought up in the next issue.
My solution was just talk about it on a podcast. The people that will probably know what I'm talking about, know what my question is. That's my solution. So.
But yeah, then Delirium, talks to Tiffany, who's having a drug freak out. I guess talks to Ishtar through Tiffany.
Yeah.
And then, we go to Dream's flashback.
I thought this was interesting because you see Corinthian in the waking world again when it shows Morpheus. I'm assuming it's supposed to be the 1700s based on their outfits.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the same. This is the English plague year, 1660, whatever.
Okay.
Because they mention Isaac Newton and some other stuff that sort of, this is right after the stuff with Despair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool. I mean, I didn't understand what was happening. Did the guy pickpocketed him, and that's why that random guy has the ruby at one point?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not catch that.
And again, it's the same thing that Desire did to the random BDSM person of you're going to fall madly in love and have this terrible romance. And then Dream is just like, yeah, your life is going to be a waking nightmare until you're relieved that you're executed as a thief. Which is like, oh, okay, thanks, dude.
Well, I guess don't steal from goths. That's the story.
And Destruction is not pleased with it.
No, because he's just fucking with a random guy for no reason.
Yeah, he's just like, you didn't have to do that. This guy was going to die anyway.
Well, I did appreciate having the Corinthian takes eyes out of if you see this orangutan and then he just cuts the eyes, eats the eyes.
Yeah. I do like, that the scientist is like, what happened to the monkey's eyes? And he's like, I don't know.
One eye.
No idea.
They were gone when I got here.
I was surprised to see the Corinthian again because he played a big part in Dollhouse, but we haven't seen anything of him since then.
And it also shows just how different Dream is at this point where he's just like, yeah, I just thought it'd be cool to give the Corinthian some air. He is full, what a human would consider sociopathic, where he just does not care. He's like, whatever. The Corinthian's going to do what he's going to do. I'm going to cause some nightmares while I'm here. It does not matter to me.
He hasn't been humbled yet.
Yeah.
And mortals are so beneath him.
Yeah, he doesn't have a friend who's a human. He's just like, yeah, I'm just wasting my time. I guess he already has met Hobgoblin, but he's not on friendly terms with him yet. So he's just like, yeah, humans stupid. I'll mess with them however I want. Which Destruction is obviously not in that boat. He's like, you know what's going on? And he's like, no, I don't. He's like, they've figured out reason and logic, and basically they've their mathematics is going to create like super weapons. And he's like, so who cares?
I mean, basically, this is the dawn of destruction, realizing people don't need him anymore. They're going to do it themselves.
Right. Yeah. They're on a path where he is either going to have to like, either, do something or not do something, I guess, when people are like, hey, I want to completely wipe out these people, which is a bad situation, I guess, to be in if you don't want that responsibility.
So the reason we have the nuclear bombs is because of destruction left? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
if he wanted to, he could have been like, no, this doesn't work, and just basically like push the button.
And he could have been like one of those guys in Oppenheimer and just been like, no, your math's wrong. That doesn't work at all.
Yep. Just completely shut it down. Which, it's the Futurama, when Bender becomes God. It's just like, the best course is to use a light touch, so no one even knows you did anything at all. 'Cause, yeah, it's like if you feed the rabbit to the fox, and the rabbit is like, the gods have forsaken us. But if you don't feed the fox, then the fox is like, the gods have forsaken us. So you're in a really catch-22 situation where you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do here as the god of destruction?
And I do like that idea. The rabbit. You're like, wait, I don't know, it amused me. I was also amused how, like, Morpheus is standing in the fire and nothing affects him because he's endless, and he just walks out and they're like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? Like, come on.
Oh, sorry, I was remembering stuff.
That's so cool. And then when he tells Delirium that Ruby's dead, she's like, oh, wow. I mean, I get to drive. And I'm like, that is okay. Like, that made me chuckle. Yeah. As dark as that was, I'm like, all right. I Delirium really grew on me.
Yeah, she's like I said, she's definitely a little sister where you're like, okay, I can't stay mad at you.
And then that brings us to chapter 5 of the story, where you just have, again, more random characters. I mean, you kind of were introduced to Tiffany and Ishtar last issue, very little, but you see Ishtar coming to wake up Tiffany, and I assume she did drugs the night before or something, or I'm not sure. That's kind of what I got when she vomits.
I mean, she's doing drugs like in the scene. Again,
she is?
Yeah, kids or parents, make sure your kids aren't reading SandMan. Yeah, she's just doing lines of cocaine.
When? I did not catch that.
Yeah, she's got a mirror. Let's see. Oh, maybe that's not this scene. That's the second scene she's in. Where she's like, "Oh, I'm fine," and you see her like.
Oh yeah, she's doing coke. I did not catch that.
Yeah, she's got like her nail against the mirror, and then you have her. She's like snorting. Yeah, it's very clear what's happening as an adult.
The inside of her lip.
Yeah.
Oh, funny thing. We were watching Succession, and they were doing coke, and my wife like, why do they touch their inside of the lip? I'm like, and I actually pretty sure I knew the answer. It had to do with like what your veins are closer, or there's more stuff there to make you get high, also, or something, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do drugs, but I watch tons. Well, I do. I eat edibles, but I watch tons of documentaries about drugs and stuff like that because I'm just so fascinated by stuff like that.
Cocaine absorbs in the mouth faster, and the hit is more intense.
Okay. That's what I thought,
quick.
But I did not catch it in this book when I was reading that. That's what she was doing. Like, it's not obvious if you don't know what you're. Because apparently, I read this thing twice. Yeah. Neither time went over my head until Chris pointed out. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, when I was in a freshman in college, I definitely didn't realize what she was doing when I read this the first time. But yeah, it's like it's very clear on a reread. Like, yeah, especially because the first time she's there, Ishtar's like, "Let me make you breakfast. You were kind of a mess last night," and she's like, "Oh, I feel so sick." And then gives her food, and she immediately just barfs it like down her face. And she's like, "Okay, you're not ready for food yet."
I'm ready for Coke though, apparently.
Well, yeah, that's when she's back up. This is when she's down.
I mean, that does fit. For my end, isn't Coke the one that if you could you won't sleep for like days, or that meth? Or both?
Yes.
I mean, they're both uppers, but yeah, I mean, she's recovering from whatever hangover or drug thing she had last night in the morning. And then afterwards, after she takes a shower and does some Coke, she's like, "Oh, I'm so happy." But anyway.
One of the worst things happened to a person, in my opinion, this entire book, when the cop pulls over Delirium and he's being an asshole because, she could kill people, which, again, and then she just like, she's like, "I don't like the way you talk to me. You're going to have invisible insects all over you now for all your life."
Yeah. I mean, he is too aggressive. He has his gun out because she was driving for too long while he had his lights on. I'm like, dude,
I mean, that's what you
calm down.
Oh, sidetrack, but since Ken's from Milwaukee also, I heard in Canada, Milwaukee, some guy stole a cupcake and was running away, and then the security guard solution was shoot him instead of,
Yeah, sounds about right.
run after him, and now he's going to prison probably. It's just
That's
like
a real Wisconsin move there.
the point of the gun is not to. I don't want to run. I'll just shoot you. I don't have to run after you then. Like, no, there's other ways.
And that's why we say a cab.
So, I mean, that's just, you are right. Like, why is you don't need to pull the gun out. Like, you just walk up with the gun out. Like, you don't need to do that.
Yeah, he's immediately at like 11. So yeah, she's just like, you're rude. And yeah, it's like, I'm going to ruin your life forever. You're going to be unable to function in society because of your mass hallucination of insects.
That's just fucking terrible.
Yep. And once again, another endless destroys a human being.
Yep.
Yeah, his life is over.
Yeah, just casually, like not even with a second thought. Not until the very end of the story are we like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah, that confused me too. Like, oh, whatever happened to that guy? Like, whose world was just ended? Like, that's the kind of person. Like, yeah, just. I think it's time for him to go. Like, his life is over. I'd be like, put me out of my misery.
The interesting thing is, though, that you have Dream now asking, was that entirely necessary?
Yeah.
He does the same shit to people, but I guess he's changed.
So 200, 300 years ago, he was doing that left and right, and now he's like, you don't need to do that.
And this is when he goes back. He goes to the Dream to call Matthew, to have Matthew, because Matthew could drive as a human.
Kinda.
Oh, well.
I do like, he's like, I did die in a drunk driving accident. Like, should I really be telling someone else how to drive? I did like that.
I love Matthew in this issue. He's such good comic relief.
Oh, yeah.
It's so funny. Again, as someone who's read Swamp Thing, like Bethany, it's what's her name? Cable's. Is it Bethany? I think that's right. Her husband, no, Abigail. Her husband's such a piece of shit, and then dies. And so it's so funny that Matthew's like, oh, he's a cool guy.
I do want to read Swamp Thing though, one day.
Yeah, he's not really a character. Like, he's more of a character in this. In Swamp Thing, he's basically just like a shitty husband who then dies and gets possessed by. Not to spoil who gets possessed by, but his body gets possessed by somebody.
Okay.
And he's like, oh, hey, babe, I got a great new job. And don't worry about the details or why I'm being so weird. Again, the first two arcs of Sandman really borrowed from Swamp Thing's like horror, because the reveal of what that is and what that meant, I don't want to spoil it because it's really good. And it's also just like one of the few times a comic made me want to take a shower like immediately. It's really, really gross. But anyway,
I need to read it.
Matthew in Swamp Thing, just a fun guy who wants to go to a strip club.
I did like that. Oh, this one, I think they say they're going to the strip club, and I come Matthew's like, you're gonna kill us all. I mean, and it kind of cuts back and forth of Delirium doesn't know how to drive, and then Ishtar and Tiffany and some other random girl at the strip club. And I do like how they're talking about like the old days when they were at these temples, and Ishtar's like, yeah, and just start telling them what happened because she was there.
Yeah, it's just convenient. Yeah, that one of the people there is a graduate student in women's studies, so knows all about Ishtar, and she's like, yep, that's right.
It's not as far-fetched as you'd think, though.
No, I mean, yeah, the fact that your grad student could have student loans to pay off, yeah, believable.
Yeah, I know a couple grad students who are actually dancers, so
makes sense. I liked it. I liked the way that when they go to the strip club and then the guy won't let them in, and they're like, "Yeah, we're humans. We're three men
wearing normal clothes for this establishment." And he's like, "Yeah, okay."
And there's one panel of Dream where he has a red eye when he's doing that to the person. I don't know. I thought that was interesting because he never has a red eye otherwise. They just drew a red eye at one part.
Yeah, he's got the Cable lightning eye at a later point.
It's like a Terminator in here because he has a red eye again. Another scene when he's talking to Ishtar for the first time.
Yeah, Ishtar thinks she's in trouble. I guess she sees two Endless show up and is like, "What does this mean?"
I mean,
like, oh fuck.
I think that's a pretty good reaction. Like, oh God, there are these things that are older than time. I'm the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And she knows what they are, so.
Yeah.
And I guess knew Orpheus at some point previously, where he's like, you always thought I wasn't good enough for your son. And he's like, I still don't.
And trying to think, there's some good stuff. Oh, and then earlier there's more foreshadowing where you have Tiffany telling Ishtar, like, why don't you dance the way I know you can dance? She's like, they're not here for that. And
she's like breaking out the belly dancing, like skills or whatever. And they're like, yeah, they don't really care about that. They're mostly just here for, whatever, pour some sugar on me, whatever early 90s strip club songs that people are listening to.
Oh,
Like
that's
she makes comments, she's like, they're here for legs and other parts. I'm like, they're not here for dances. So I was a little confused. So Tiffany runs out the door. They both leave after they talk to her. And is it because of the trap that she then goes on stage and starts doing the dance from back then?
No.
I mean, it's seemingly influenced by that because Destruction says it's his fault. But yeah, she just is like, fine, I'm just going to dance.
Yeah, like I think she's just tired because like some of the lines in here, like especially when Ishtar is saying, I know how gods begin, Roger. We start as dreams and we walk out of dreams into the land where worship, loved, and take power to ourselves. And one day there's no one left to worship us. Like that's very much at least seems to me, dude, I'm just fucking tired.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fair. I mean, if you live for that long, I mean, more Highlander comments. But like, that whole, like the song for Highlander, who wants to live forever? Like that idea that you never age and people that you love are just going to die and things that you know are going to completely change. You just, after a while, you're like, I don't care anymore. Like, I'm done. Let's go.
Right. And the way that God's work is kind of similar to the Marvel and DC version where it's like they get their power, at least in part, on belief. So if people don't worship you anymore, like she's getting this like very low dose of worship from like, loyal cadre of perverts, but she's not getting like random, prayers from people in, wherever being like, Ishtar, I need help with my love life. So she doesn't have the power and the ability to change things she used to have. So yeah, she just feels like powerless and getting old.
I do like they have the couple, like essentially all the people there died, and they have a couple lines that they want you to know that they're not like they're dying. Like it's like Jay Musgrave feels the blood burst from his ears. There is pain, true, but he scarcely notices it. And it just gets weirder and weird, deeper. Like and Shep Case, who hasn't had an erection in a dozen years, is ejaculating violently again and again and again, and now he's coming blood and he doesn't care. It's like, okay, book, all right,
yeah. They are, I mean, no one is unhappy, I guess, that this is how they go out. It's a choice.
Yeah, this is pure unbridled sexuality and, worshipful sexuality at that. Like, this is the kind of dancing that you die for or that you would want to die for if you saw.
Yeah.
And then the place blows up. Did she blow up the place then?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Her like power or whatever. I guess the power of her dying does that, I guess.
I was also very confused in the last part of this book, which again plays off in the end, where Tiffany runs off and then Desire gives Tiffany a jacket and then disappears.
Yeah, this is like good endless Desire. Like we've seen Desire be such a piece of shit the entire rest of the story, but this time Desire is like trying to reach out to Despair, is telling Dream like this is not my thing, and then is helping Tiffany like when she is almost killed, like giving her some clothes. So this is good endless Desire all of a sudden where they're changing too.
And I was again confused when issue 6 starts off and you just have that random guy on the island with his talking dog. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy still?
So you still didn't know who this was?
No, it did not, because I missed the panel somehow when it showed the room. It didn't click. I had no idea who this guy was. I'm like, why do they keep showing this guy?
But surely you had to know at the end of like page 2 or 3 where he's talking to Barnabas and saying, "Oh, you've never met my family."
It didn't click.
Oh,
It didn't click. Yeah, no, I don't know. I got nothing, Ken. I got nothing.
it's fair.
Yeah. I mean, I also read these while I was trying not to pass out, so there was that too. Because I read at night before I go to bed. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't catch it. And this is where you have Morpheus not be an asshole. He just tells Delirium, "Yeah, we're done looking." Because the whole reason why he was even looking was just to, keep himself busy because he's upset about his lost love who left him. And I mean, I know part of it's because people are dying, and he's like, "Yeah, there's something going on here. We should stop looking." But it really upsets Delirium.
I mean, that's really what makes him want to keep looking is like somebody's stopping me. Maybe I do want to do this. But
I guess he feels bad for Ruby dying too, and Ishtar dying maybe.
Yeah, that's part of what makes him go back is he's like, something is getting in our way, which makes me think that I should do that. Which is just, that's endless logic for you, I guess. That I thought this was just going to be like a relaxing vacation, but people keep dying, so I want to keep going.
I do like how he goes back to the dream and you see him talking to Faramond, and then you have a thing that confused me a little bit that I wanted to talk to you guys about when he starts talking to Bast. I didn't completely understand. Like, I sort of got the hint that Bast is an actual, like, living creature in the real world that is, like, a humanoid cat person.
Well, it's another god.
Yeah.
Okay.
An
That's
Egyptian
still alive
god.
in current time?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, if you kind of go by the DC or Marvel version of, like, worship keeps you alive, Bast still has enough, like, Wiccan, people pray to her because she's the cat goddess, that she still has some power.
And this is the second time we've seen Bast.
Yeah, she was in the whatchamacallit, the
the cat story?
Hell auction.
Yeah, the auction for the keys to hell.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, I did not. Damn it! I'm reading this damn series when we're done. Okay, I didn't catch that. I didn't remember that, but I was just kind of confused because, like, I see she's in a dream and she's in reality, and there's, like, the small part where she, like, somebody wishes for their cat to save their cat, and she kills the cat because it was going to die anyway. And I'm assuming that's supposed to be the girl that you then see later that has a new cat at the end of the story. From the
It
girl
could be. I mean,
that's how I took the second time.
It's hard to know for sure. I mean, that it happens.
Yes. Again, stuff that amused me when you get to the part where the jack-o'-lantern guy is, they're cutting off the wing and they're putting books around because Dream doesn't want the wing where his lover was to exist, and the guy gets caught talking shit about him.
As always.
Yeah.
I really like that. He's like, I'll just go over here.
What really gets me is the look on Dream's face. He looks amused.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't look mad. He's got, like, a smirk.
He can't be like one of the guys. He takes his responsibilities too seriously, but he's not being a jerk about it at this point. He's just like, people are afraid, dreams are afraid of me. And I think it's cool, I guess, that some people are still afraid of me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair way to take it.
And I love seeing Dream and Lucian in the same picture. It always gives me joy.
I really like Lucian. He's really grown on me as we've been reading these. I really come to appreciate the character. And then you get Death again, and then this whole thing is where Lucian brings him to the gallery, brings Morpheus to the gallery, and that Delirium's portrait is all blacked out because she's upset. And this is when he calls Death, and Death is all like, "I'm not talking to you.
It's your piece of shit."
Yeah, it's such good, like, well-observed family drama of, like, what did you do? And he's like, I didn't do anything. I was helping. And yeah, it's just like, okay, well then why did she delete her Facebook or whatever?
I mean, that is fair. That is a fair way to put it. I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of what it is.
It
She's
really
still
is.
reachable. You just can't get to her. You have to actually go to her.
Yes.
I
Uninstalled all their social media, where now you have to go to their house.
I never get tired of Death. And as people were listening to the last episode when we talked about it, I did buy that Death Funko Pop. It is right to the left of me on a shelf now.
Yep, he absolutely did. I've seen pictures.
I really like Death, man. I can't get over how cool she is in this. And there's a small thing when she's convincing Morpheus to go talk to Delirium, and she kisses him, and you just have a little red heart drawn on the panel. Like, I just really like Death. And also seeing Morpheus go into Delirium's realm and the way they draw it, I thought is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
For everything, he like the first page, he looks like you cut magazines out and just drew him on top of magazine cuttings. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's very much a photo collage, and I don't know, that's how I would imagine that Delirium's environment looks like. It looks absolutely
insane
here and there, and just there's no structure, which is Delirium.
And I like what Delirium says to him. She's like, I couldn't make you so you could never leave here and you just go mad. And I thought that was powerful, that she has the power to, trap him too. She's like, you're not even wearing your helm. I don't know. I got it. I was like, and also Delirium cut her hair, which I like how much she changes throughout this because she's distressed. So she cut her hair.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely something that we can see continuing into modern day. Because I always make a sacrifice to the hair gods when I'm losing my mind. And I'm not kidding.
I cut my hair. I'd shave my head when I would do, but that was just because I don't like hair on my head. But
there's such and again, the character I don't think exists, or maybe existed just in the cartoon. There's such a Harley Quinn energy, especially when her head is shaved and she's like, here we come, where she's actually excited to do something. Because it does remind me of that sort of distracted energy that like the Harley Quinn cartoon is so good at sort of capturing, of like Harley Quinn wants to do something and then like 30 seconds later forgets what her plan was.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was feeling very much Tank Girl vibes, which is essentially the same thing.
Yeah,
I can't speak to that.
Very similar design.
Mm-hmm.
And then this brings us to chapter 7 of this. Still confused. I was still confused. We have the random artist that's now cooking with a talking dog, and he gives the dog chocolate. And I'm like, you can't give a dog chocolate. I mean, I have many times, not by choice, but it's just when I forget about it, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there it went. It's gone now. So it made me laugh.
It's a talking dog. I'm sure it's magic.
Yeah. I'm assuming this dog isn't exactly I'm assuming this dog was a human or something. I guess it. I don't know. There's more to this dog than a dog.
The dog is right, though. Terrible sculpture. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, that is a terrible sculpture. I really like the dog smartass. That's great.
Yeah, I do like the instructions. Like, I'd like to see you do better. And he's like, well, first, I don't have thumbs. And second, dogs have too much respect to embarrass themselves like this. I'm like, yeah, dogs known for their calm poise and not making fools of themselves.
I do like the part when he tells the dog to leave, and this is where he says, a culinary artist and genius, inspiration, and a dog-free kitchen. So he's like, so you'll settle for one out of the three, huh? As he walks out the kitchen. I don't know, made me laugh too.
Yeah, I love his like silly walk too, as he's laughing, walking away. Like, that's such a well observed. Like, I don't know whose photo reference, but that's a dog like trotting. Like, that's not a run.
It's like, haha.
But this, brings up an interesting point because, this is destruction. And destruction is trying to create art. But those two typically don't go hand in hand. So he's not good at it.
Yeah, he mentions earlier, he's like, yeah, I don't dream. That would be giving too much information away. So he has no like dream inspiration at all.
He's just not great. He's trying though. Oh, he's trying.
We find out later he actually is a pretty good cook. So the actual act of like breaking things down into their like base components and transforming them, he can do that.
Yep.
It's just the like artistic side of it he can't do.
He has no art. Yeah. Artsy talent. And then when you see Delirium and Morpheus again, Delirium has more hair again now, but it's still short, but it's orange now instead of blonde as it was in the last panels, the last issue. And sometimes I would say that's an accident where the artist just screwed up in some of the books I read, but this felt, this is purposeful.
Yeah. It's always changing.
Yeah. I really like the whole thing where she's like, we need to go talk to Destiny because I don't know what to do because people on my list, we already saw her in my list, and they have to go find a labyrinth. So they go to a mirror maze and start walking through I guess maybe not a mirror maze, but a maze at a amusement park to get to their labyrinth. I really like that idea.
And I like how it just slowly becomes the way to Destiny's Garden. Like with every turn, just a little bit more changes.
Yeah, that's one of those things that comics can show you so much. I mean, movies can do it too, I guess, but it's easy in comics.
Also, with each panel being something different, you can really show the differences and make it work. I feel better in here than you could have in I guess you could do it in a movie, but I feel like a comic it made it look much more cleaner and clearer. Yeah,
like I said, it's doable. I mean, Guillermo del Toro's done stuff like this. But it's just like, it's easy in a comic because you understand what's happened, the change that's happening is it's slowly becoming this other thing.
But the scene when they get to the garden and they see Delirium as Delight, her in her past self, that I thought was really touching. Like, see what she, how she wasn't Delirium, she was Delight, and she, wasn't confused. That was a really cool little moment. It's simple, but I thought it was a very cool moment. And it's cool to see Destiny again, because we haven't had Destiny since, I guess we had him in the wedding, but we also had him in Season of Mist, where I think he first played a part in. But where he won't tell them what to do, but then he tells Morpheus what Morpheus doesn't. He's like, I'm going to tell you what you don't, not what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, when he tells them about that. Yeah, she didn't love you, and she's not coming back.
That's cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it did not click when he's like, well, there's an oracle in the family you could talk to, and he's like, no.
Which is like what Bast said too. So
this
is the second person that's like, well, you do. And he's like, oracles can't help the family. And he's like, well, you do have an oracle in your family. He's like, yeah, not doing, like, what other solutions do you have?
I don't want to talk to him. And you have Delirium, her eyes are the same color for the first time. I guess she's able to like focus and becoming her past self is how I guess I was taking it.
I always thought she was just kind of like reclaiming herself from the madness that took her over.
Okay. Do they ever say why she went mad?
Well, I mean, they kind of broach it right here when, she asked Destiny why she stopped being Delight, and then goes on to explain it.
Someone did not read very well.
Yeah, I do like, when Dream sort of has a little bit of a breakdown and Delirium has to stand up to Destiny and then try to help Dream and be like, look, this is really hard for me to be put together.
Yeah,
so can you please get back to normal so I can be the funny, weird one again?
And then when Destiny's looking at his book and it's just showing you panels, it shows you when the whole family was together in the 1700s, it looks like, or would have been 1600s, when Destruction leaves. So after that, there's 3 panels in this page. The first one is Dream. From reading this, when Dream gets captured. Then it's Death. With a man, and I'm assuming this is supposed to be ancient China.
Mm-hmm.
The third panel with Corinthian standing over a broken throne. I'm assuming this is something that has yet to come.
Yeah, how about that, huh?
Okay, don't worry
I wasn't wrong. I'm because he even said the pages turn in gusts and turns, first one way, then another. There is blood on the throne of the Dream King. The Corinthian stands behind it, trembling, red, wet, tears dribbling from his mouth. The Dream King looks up slowly and speaks to him. He is dressed entirely in white, and Destiny reaches for the book. His lean fingers calm the nervous pages and find his place once more. And I'm like, wait a second.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Hey, remember that thing you saw? No, you didn't.
But it's just I was just okay, I'm getting more foreshadowing, but not even foreshadowing. I mean, I'm assuming, again, I don't know anything. I want to put that out there right now. I have not read anything. I have not had Sandman ever spoiled for me, surprisingly. But I'm assuming because the name of the 10th book is The Wake that this has something to do with that. But I don't want any comment. I just want to speak my thought for those listening.
That brings up a good question, though. Can this really be spoiled?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess in a sense, yeah, you could read on Wikipedia what happens.
Yeah,
but, it doesn't mean as much without going on the journey.
No, some stuff is just like that. If, Kingdom Hearts, for example, somebody spoils something in Kingdom Hearts and it made, and then the guy's like, oh, spoilers. I'm like, it means that sentence meant absolutely nothing to me. I played for the game.
Ansem's clone really wasn't the architect of Organization 13? Oh, no.
You're telling me that Ansem wasn't actually Ansem, but this is Ansem, and this guy just was someone who worked for Ansem. It looks like Ansem. What the same idea.
Exactly.
It just doesn't make sense.
What does that mean?
Meant anything to me.
Example, you have 2 people that one's a ghost and one is a zombie version of the same person who fall in love and turn out they're the same person. Does that make any sense to you? Yeah. It does to some people out there about Kingdom Hearts.
Yep, I hate when that happens.
So after you have this weird, random panel, it means nothing. And you have Delirium, who now has more hair and is now wearing white instead of her black bra and panties and fishnet. She now has a white dress on and a white jacket. And they show up on an island, which is the Oracle Island, or where his son is, because you recognize the people holding guns and the old guy. I do like how you again, small panel of her putting cherries on Johanna Constantine's grave. And Delirium wants to see Orpheus one last time, but he won't let her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's later. Never mind. That's later.
Yeah, that's that scene because she waits by the grave of Johanna.
Okay, I thought she sees him one last time. Or is that before he kills him?
That's later.
Okay. I like how he picks a flower and puts the flower at Johanna's grave. That was cool. And then what is the island where destruction? Yeah, the island where destruction is right next to this island.
Yeah,
huh?
It's just like a neighboring island. Yeah, they just get on a boat and go 5 minutes to his island.
By the way, this is when it finally clicked for me who destruction was. When they show up with the island and the dog, and I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, man, it finally clicked. It should have clicked a while ago.
I'm glad it got there eventually.
Yeah, 2/3 of the way through the next issue, as he's talking to Dream, they're like, "Who's this guy?"
They're so close. Are they roommates?
I was just so confused. It finally made sense. To be fair, I think it was my own delirium. I've been drinking a lot this week while I was reading this, so that might have something to do with it.
But Destruction made dinner.
Yep, he made a big spread too. He it was foreshadowed when he was cooking earlier that he wasn't just cooking for him and the dog. But he's cooking for 10 people.
It's it looks good.
It does, and Dream's I have no interest in mortal food. You at least eat it, not be an asshole. I've seen you eat.
Right? You ordered an omelet from that other guy when Delirium ordered the chocolate people who had sex.
I mean, that wasn't mortal food, but I feel like he's eaten at some point.
Well, he's eating mortal food in a dream, though. That's the same.
Good point. And could at least be polite, but I guess it's just Dream being an asshole. He's like, I'm just here to find you and make you come and have you come back. Like, I'm not here to eat your food.
Yeah. It is, we're constantly like, at least I am reading this. We're constantly hoping that like Dream is going to like make good choices and not immediately be like, how dare you and sort of be like haughty. But it is like when Barnabas that is there, it is immediately like, is Dream going to be a huge asshole about this talking dog?
Because he tells the dog to leave, or then he tells the dog you can stay, but you don't speak a word of anything you hear.
Yeah, he like magically shuts him up and makes him unable to speak at the dinner table.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, because he tries to say something and can't.
That's why the panel is there with nothing, with like the Walmart sign. Okay.
The Walmart sign.
That's what it looks like. It looks like that little symbol. For those not reading along at home while you're driving your car. So, okay. And then when you see Delirium kind of go from her red hair back to her colored hair back to being bald, like just the way she changes, and she can actually do it at will now. I like that a lot. And she goes right back to the red hair where she wants to be. But just, man, her word bubbles with the way they did it in the different colors and the way that the text gets bigger and smaller, it actually worked for me. I was surprised that I really like it. I love the way Delirium talks.
Yeah, I think when I first read this, I found it annoying. It's fine now. There's much worse. If you have like cursive, we've talked about previously, cursive text boxes, much harder than just the colored text boxes that Delirium has.
It wasn't too bad. When he feeds the dog the meatballs because they won't eat the food. He's like, here you go. At least somebody will enjoy them.
Yeah, that was cute. But yeah, so yeah, Destruction is like, look, I'm not going back. I am not, he is fully like decided he's not going to do this. Humans can do what they want. It's up to them. I have no decision-making power or authority. I'm just staying out of it.
Yeah, because then they went all this way to talk to him and try to convince him to come back. And then you just see him, like you have a flashback of him talking to Death when it looks like she's in the 80s for some reason. I don't know why, but it does. But it's definitely not the 80s. And then you have him. He goes to where his room was, where he had all the sigils. I think he leaves everything, but he takes his sword, which is his sigil, and he takes the whirlpool and just. I like how he shrinks them down, puts them in like a little hobo bandana thing that you would think of on a stick, and then just walks off. I was really amused by that. I mean,
I do like
cartoon.
That. Yeah, I do like that he's literally, like Poochie floating away. Like he's just panel as he's just like disappearing because he's leaving this like dimension basically.
What confused me is he leaves the dog with Delirium, which I thought was cool because Delirium said she wanted a pet, and the dog can go to Delirium's realm, but can't go to where he's going. Delirium's realm isn't exactly a normal place either.
I think he's going. It always seemed to me like he's going somewhere so alien that like nobody would be able to follow him. And I don't know, maybe he's just going because he wants to get away from everyone and everything. And maybe he survives, maybe he doesn't.
Well, the only thing is that he, as he points out, if he just killed himself or let himself die, a new destruction would be named, and he doesn't want that to happen.
Because there's no point to it.
Yeah, he would rather just be like MIA than, have whatever decides who the Endless are. Be like, okay, new Endless, destruction number 2.
Man, who does decide the Endless?
I take it that question wasn't rhetorical, was it? I have a strange feeling, but we'll get there eventually, maybe. And then the last bubble that you see, last text bubble of this issue is where Morpheus tells Delirium, I got to go back and see my son. I have to kill my son. I was like, wait a second.
I mean, as far as decisions go, having to kill the sentient, decapitated head of your son, it's up there. It's pretty rough time.
And I don't think I caught this the first time, but the first page of chapter 9, the last chapter of the story, where you see a woman and 2 kids, is Orpheus dreaming of what could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not catch that the first time I read that. I don't think. Even though it says it, I don't remember realizing it. I'm like, wait a second. And then he wakes up and, okay, this is when Delirium shows up and walks in there and says hi. Then he has her leave. So what, I know we read it in the previous arc, but wasn't one of the previous arcs Desire was trying to get Morpheus to spill family blood?
Yes.
Which arc was that?
That was was that his doll's house?
I think it was Doll's House.
Okay.
I think so, because that's the book that started the entire Desire versus Dream, like, kind of, I'll get you, my brother, and your little library too. But, like, it was never overt. It was always very much underhanded behind Dream's back.
Yeah, setting up the whole a bunch of things in motion with the whatever they were called, the anomaly or whatever, who was 100 years old, and all the other craziness of that arc.
Okay. You feel like it's been 2 years since I read that arc, or 3 years. Weird. Weird. Or 4 years even. It's been a long time. But when he goes in there and then he takes Morpheus' head and, like, I guess he kills him. Like, I mean, I know he kills him, but, like, the way they do it, all of a sudden his hand just turns red, full of blood, and then both his arms are covered in blood. And just the way that he looks when you see that panel of him standing there, he just looks like a zombie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the whole thing with Morpheus that he didn't want to, death just wasn't going to come get him, so he could never die. But he's just a head now. So, I mean, that's not a very good way to live, I guess. It's just to be a floating head that never dies for years and years and years. But it's just... So there's an effect to killing them, right? Like, there's something that's going to happen to him because he did this, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It's not a victim. It's not something you can do and walk away unscathed from when you're the person that does it, I'm assuming?
Yeah, you're not supposed to do this.
This is bad.
And then you have Despair shows up and is kind of upset too that she didn't go with him because she didn't get to see your brother one last time.
Yep. And then good on Delirium for getting one dig in and be like, yeah, you said so. You didn't care. I'm leaving. Bye.
Not wrong. And then Despair is talking to Desire, and then Desire looks more male in this one, but also, like, it almost changes throughout panels.
I was going to say which panel.
Yeah. There's a couple that look very male and a couple that, a little bit of it's. So I was also confused by this. When Dream is going to his realm, it talks about something that he destroyed years ago, like some that he built, like, out of horns, and then he's telling the Siggles, the Griffin and thing, he won't see them again, it sounded like. Or he acting like he might not see them again. Or he's telling them, I value all most highly. And they ask, is he all right? And he says something to the fairy. Like, I was very confused what's going on. Because it just ends with him washing his hands, and then he just sits on his chair sad.
Well, he's in his feelings right now. I mean, he did just murder his child.
Yeah.
So, he's emotional, and he wants to not be as big of a shithead as he has been in the past. Like, he tells Nuala that she can keep the necklace on, because the necklace was a gift from the person who we still don't know who had the affair with Morpheus. And she was warned to hide the necklace, don't wear it around him. And in the end, he's like, I've seen the necklace, right? Well, wear it. Cool. Like, he's trying not to be such a shithead, because this is why Orpheus died, because they couldn't talk, because they wouldn't.
Right. And it's instead of the sort of, Robert Smith just feeling sorry for himself, raining all the time. Like, he's deeply sad, but it's not like it's in the same way of just like, oh, I got broken up with again. He's literally like reliving conversations he had with his son of like, I wish I had said this to him. Maybe things would have turned out differently.
Yeah, that is powerful.
Yeah, this is him dropping the Robert Smith and going full Trent Reznor.
And you have, I think it's just a couple pages where it kind of shows what happened to wrapping up things. The old woman from the first issue drinking at a cemetery where her son died, which was talked about in that little part. You had the little girl who met on the plane with a new cat because her other cat got hit by a car. Which
so that must have been Bast's.
Yeah. You have the son, the lawyer, burning all the things, but he kept a couple passports. A couple blank passports. You never know when you need to leave.
That makes perfect sense.
The cop strapped down to a gurney in an insane asylum.
Ugh, God.
I'm like, that is just fucking awful. And Tiffany's on Oprah, essentially, talking about her life of sin and things.
Basically how an angel helped her not die.
And then you have Desire in an eyeball. I'm assuming the eyeball of the statue of Desire. Mm-hmm. And then Desire has a little rose, or the cherry petal, which I guess is associated with Orpheus.
Well, it's the flower that Delirium picked when Delirium went, or not Delirium, when Despair visited Delirium and Dream.
Okay.
She picked that flower and gives it to Desire. So it's Desire just got everything she ever or everything they ever wanted, and they're not happy about it.
No, in fact, they're scared
because of the effect of Morpheus killing Endless.
Yeah, this is what they wanted, but they're in no man's land now. They have no idea what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Man, volume 8 is not that far away from me, by the way. I'm looking at 8, 9, 10, and 11. Next to that ugly yellow book with a W on it that I don't want to read ever again. But we don't need to worry about that. And then the very last page is the people that were on the island, because they were told earlier Dream had talked to them in a dream and said, you bury my son's head and you don't have to do this anymore, right? And the old guy even says, just he will never see the cherry blossoms grow again. And I don't know if it's because he was only staying alive because of the singing, and that's what kept him alive, or I wasn't sure. Now his life had no meaning.
Or sometimes people just know when they're going to die.
Yeah, that is fair. I've seen that in my line of work. So okay.
Yeah, they just know that it's time, and maybe not having a purpose anymore. He's had for how many years that he handed down. Maybe this is him taking his rest.
Okay.
And just starting and ending the story with Andros on this island. I like that.
Same. I really do too.
And again, Dream takes the time. We've seen so many times the Endless have been so casually cruel to humans. Dream comes to him in a dream and is like, hey, good job. I'm glad you took care of my son. You don't need to do that anymore, obviously.
Yeah.
Once you bury the head, it's done.
Okay,
and that's Brief Lives.
Whew. This is an emotional book, man.
It was. I normally don't read SandMans twice because they're heavy books compared to other stuff that I read, like Turtles, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I had to read this twice. I finished it and I immediately wanted to read it again. I took this book with me places and just sat and read in a car while I waited for things for my wife. It was so engrossing.
It's just.
You guys definitely have me on the SandMan train, by the way, completely at this point.
Well, good, because now with Morpheus's killing of his son, it's endgame time, baby.
So we should go to shelf stacker box because I do have a couple comments I want to make afterward. But Ken, why don't you go first?
This one I'm definitely going to put on the shelf. I have so many thoughts, and I don't want to clog up this area, but yes, the shelf.
Okay. And Chris.
Yeah, this is definitely a shelf. This is, like I said, the Endless are so much better defined now, and you care about these characters in a way that I don't think if I just handed someone Volume 7 and was like, start here, I don't know if you would immediately care about all of this.
You wouldn't.
But because we've been on this, ride with these characters together, we're like, oh, wow, I'm shocked how much I care about Desire, who's only been a huge pain in the ass to Dream, that they are a person, that they are, and a person in the sense of they are a complicated character. They're not just a antagonist who's like, I'm gonna make you feel things, loser. They're not a mean girl high school villain. That they're they have real thoughts and feelings, and are sometimes they surprise themselves even about not reacting to things the way they thought they would.
Okay. And I'll go last. I'm going to put this on the shelf also. I just really enjoyed this book, and we're 3 away from the end of the series, and yeah, normally how it took us a fucking year to get around to this, I can guarantee you won't have to wait that long to hear the end of our SandMan takes. I can guarantee it. Because I need to finish the series now. So good going to the shelf, and God, I'm glad you guys took me down this road, because I read the first issue, the first trade, I wasn't into it. I read Dollhouse, I was getting there, and then the show came out, and then it just kept going, and now I'm fully in.
Now you're hooked.
Yes, and I was doing a little bit of nosing about the next one is another At World's End is the next trade, which is another short stories, 1 issue type things again.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read any farther than that because I don't want to know anything other than.
Don't.
I'm not. I'm just, I just was curious what the name of it was, and then it said, this is just 3 and 6, where it's just I'm like, okay, that's all I need to know. That's all my curiosity needed to know. Yeah, well, we'll be reading this. Oh, but the stuff after 10, 11, Dream Hunters, whatever I think Overture is one of the names, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that stuff also written by Neil Gaiman, but it was just later?
I don't think Dream Hunters is. I think Overture is.
Okay. I mean, we still got a ways to go, but I was just curious because the way it does it, like the regular books are all in black in the trades, and then 11, 12, and 13, 14, or however it is, are all in pink.
Yeah, there's Endless Nights too. Endless Nights was written by Gaiman.
Okay, and then because I think I want to cover everything that's written by Gaiman or all that stuff, and then
Dream Hunters is by Gaiman.
Okay, yeah, we'll read all that because I have to.
And Overture, but Overture's a prequel.
Oh, okay, all right, we will be covering those. And was 8 or is 9 the one that you guys said is like straight up horror?
That would be 9.
Okay. I remember our last conversation you mentioned that 1 is like straight. And I'm not going to wait till I don't plan to wait till Spooktober to cover 9.
The kindly ones, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I can wait a year at this point.
Yeah, the kindly ones is just straight up upsetting.
Oh, fucking A. So good. All right. And Chris, where can people find you at?
You can find me on my various podcasts. Some of my friends read comics. We just recently talked about the Nightwing series from 2021, I think, with the art team that had just done Suicide Squad, Tom Taylor. I think that's right. And I can't remember the artist's name, which is a lot of fun. And then I'm sure we'll already have done a bunch of episodes by the time this comes out, but we'll have also done a Fantastic Four Walt Simonson story that's coming up soon. And my other podcast is Your Stupid Minds. By the time this comes out, we will have covered Cade the Tortured Crossing, the Neil Breen's 5th or 6th film, which it's every Neil Breen film is a masterpiece. So we're excited to talk about the best bad movie artist there is. This movie is I couldn't describe it to you now. It would take too long. The movie it has to be seen to be believed.
Okay. All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, there are over 500 other episodes of the podcast. You can find everything on Podbean if you go right on the homepage and just search. And we've done all the other Sandman up to this point. So just search Sandman. You can find our whole catalog reading up this. I'm assuming if you listen to this, you already are caught up, because otherwise you've been dropped into the middle of a place you might be very confused. But if you haven't, go listen to them. If you just randomly found us, we do movies, comics, TV shows, all sorts of random shit that people convince me to talk about. So you will go find it on there. Also, if you're into the horror stuff, Midsummer is already out at this point that you're hearing this, where I was convinced to watch something that I wanted to and then regretted the decision. But go listen to that. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube if you want to support the show. We do have a Patreon, a little dog vote in our Patreon polls. We have one every month. This month will be some kind of horror poll, so definitely go vote in that. And we do have a Discord, just link in the show notes. Please join our Discord and chat with us. And want to give a shout out my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Free. You can follow her on TikTok. And give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, starts his own podcast, The Gamer Looks at 40. Definitely go check him out also. And I think that's everything I need to say, so we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
So long.